Worlds Apart, Chapter 8. Backstory Can Be Killer. Yeonju couldn't help reading the manhwa volumes with a critical eye now, invoked both by seeing Kangchul in his own world and by her father's frightening rant. And what she saw now troubled her. Kangchul existed in a world that both cocooned and brutalized him. He was driven by the idea of discovering who killed his parents. He had chosen vengeance rather than dying at the lowest moment in his life. It was funny she hadn't really thought much about that, once he'd gotten caught up in building his broadcasting company W5 and trying to outwit the prosecutor turned statesman who kept trying to shut him down. Assemblyman Han was also more sinister in rereading, considering how often he was behind attempts to blacken Chul's name. His conviction that Chul had killed his own family seemed almost demented, but Yeonju saw this time that there was no good explanation for the deaths. If Chul couldn't trace the killer with all the resources and motivation he had, no wonder the prosecutor who knew the most about that case was sure he'd just lost his man. Did Dad have a plan? Was he just killing Chul off? Was it because he couldn't figure out how to write a proper ending for W? She finished up the chapters online. Yesterday's post had been taken down, and a formal apology made for it, but some enterprising netizen had taken screen caps and posted them on a blog. Yeonju blushed, watching herself try to surprise Chul. For a second, she thought her fever was coming back. Then she caught herself both wincing and grinning at the image of her kissing the hero of the manhwa and realized what was really happening. She was getting out her old sketchbook, too, when her mother came into the house talking with someone who sounded an awful lot like her father's assistant. "Yeonju, were you sick last night?" her mother said, coming to her door. "I wasn't feeling well, but it wasn't a big deal," Yeonju said. "Tell Bong to come in here." "I will warm up some soup for you," her mother said, by way of reply. "Why are you home so early?" "I was worried about you and your father. I contacted Bong here, and will send him with some soup as well." Yeonju tamped down annoyance that her mother was still taking care of her father. Well, he did contribute to their household bills. Bong came in looking tentative, but was reassured by her sparse room, with a wall of medical texts and reference books rather than a lot of personal decor. Yeonju showed him the image in the sketchbook since she had it out. She felt awkward about showing it to a professional artist, with the many redrawn lines and clearly mimicked style. He immediately understood what she was showing him, though. "Wait, this is your Kangchul? Master O mentioned that you used to draw, but he didn't say anything about this." "Bong, I think I'm able to go into W because I am a creator of it too. So maybe that's why Dad was gone. Where else could he have been?" "I still don't really believe this," Bong confessed, "but I guess I have to try. So you're saying that if Kangchul exists, you and your father both had parts in it, so both of you are able to go?" "Dad said last night that Kangchul turned on his creator, meaning Dad. I don't know what he means, but if Chul was able to drag me in to save him, then he's right. Dad is trying to kill him, but Chul is saving himself." Bong thought about this for a moment, then shivered and hugged himself. "That is so freaky." A thought seemed to strike him. "Wait, so, when you appear, Master O isn't drawing it. How is it updating itself? It even looks like his work." His face had a terrified fascination at the idea. "If we take a scientific approach, it makes a certain sense. W is real, we have to take that as proven. Also, our actions affect what happens in that world. So my father's art is part of the logic of that world. The world W is formed by that hand. You sometimes draw objects in the manhwa for Dad, and you make them fit his style, right?" "Right." "How do you do that?" "I have to alter my strokes. I mean, by now I pretty much draw more like him than myself. It's an assistant cartoonist's quandary. You work to get experience to do your own work, but meanwhile you're suppressing your own style." "Right. So you can draw something in a way that fits Dad's drawing style, and most readers won't notice even if it's different. So it's possible the scenes appear that Dad wouldn't draw, but are created by the logic of how he's drawn in the past." "So, how does it look? In the W world, what does Kangchul look like?" Now he was accepting the W reality as granted, Bong was going into fan mode. "He looks like the manhwa, except more real somehow. I mean, his face is ridiculously small, but he's not as soft-looking. I know Dad doesn't have a cute style exactly, but Kangchul always looks a little—" "Like this?" said Bong wryly, holding up her picture of a manhwa dream boy. "Yes, but in real life he's got more pores." Veins, bones. And you kissed him, marveled Subong. Yeonju cut herself, covering her mouth and flushing, and Subong also looked like he was blushing. Wow, they were nerds. She covered how foolish she felt by saying, "It was just for a second. It worked." Which brings me to another point. Kang-chul is the hero, and when I did something that surprised him the episode ended, I came back here. What brought you in the second time? I'm not sure. That first time he pulled me in. This time, I was going to talk with Dad about it and just ended up there. But your scene with him at the hospital wasn't long enough to fill an episode, Subong said. There was a silence. Then Yeonju couldn't help herself any longer. Do you think I look okay in the manhwa? Does that look like me? Look okay, scoffed Subong. You look amazing. You look nothing like you. He almost instantly realized what he'd said and hurried to say, I mean, in 2D, it becomes so much more obvious you have great cheekbones. And I'm not sure I've ever seen you with your hair down. I mean, today it's down, but... I haven't brushed it, she said dryly. Yes, very observant. Thank you. After a moment, Subong frowned and said, So what this suggests, logically, is that because you had a hand in making him, you also have the power to enter W, without you consciously meaning to. So maybe Master O did as well, but he didn't say so, and we didn't see him in the manhwa. No, Yeonju admitted. There was a moment of pondering. Subong, called her mother, come get this tea. Yeonju wanted to leave her room, though, so she went to have tea in their kitchen. The conference about what was happening with W was at an end anyway. Part of her was still wondering if she'd go back to Kang-chul's side, and if so, what he'd think of it. This was like being 15 all over again. A crush on a manhwa character? Really? We found her, so he said, as soon as Chul picked up her call. When I was inspecting the shop, she was here. Are the police there yet? He asked. No, I called you before calling them. Then let me handle it. He hung up. He was still on the road, so he pulled a U-turn and headed back to the shop. By the time he got there, though, a police car was rolled up to the storefront, lights going. Chul parked carelessly on the curb and stepped out of his car. An officer was bundling Yeonju out of the shop and toward the cruiser. Her hair was in a ponytail, and she was wearing sweatpants rather than the dress. So he emerged behind a second officer, frowning, her arms crossed. When Chul strode her way, she held up a hand to warn him. As little as he liked it, he joined her without speaking to the officers. We can handle this, she said, voice low. If we don't press charges, they'll have to release her.